self-study online training. This is the fourth class. We'll study about terminology. There are a lot of terminologies from here to here. Terms related to person or people, organization, activity, process, system, and go on. Let's study one by one. Before going into the details, ISO 9000 and 2015 standard. The details will be followed to next chapter. This is about clauses from 1 to 10. So let us get familiar with its basic terminology first. Yes, important note. ISO 9000 2015 version standard defines the full set of quality management terms. This one means ISO 9000 means is defining of all the methodologies. The first one is person or people. As you see, top management is a person or group of people who directs and controls an organization at the highest level. That means normally president, managing director, officers, general manager, like that level. And the involvement and engagement. And the second one is about organization. Organization is a person or group of people that has its own functions with responsibilities, authorities, and relationships to achieve its objectives. Organization is not only group of people. It sometimes come with only person. The concept of organization includes, but is not limited to, sole trader, company, corporation, firm, enterprise, authority, partnership, association, charity or institution, or part or combination thereof, whether incorporated or not, public or private, it doesn't matter. And second concept is about stakeholder or interested party. We heard about this terminology, but it's not easy to define. So let's see video. We can get solid understanding of stakeholder.
In this video, we'll answer the question, what is a stakeholder? And we'll talk about why this concept matters for you. So let's get into it. Hello there and welcome back. I'm Alex Lyon, and this channel, Communication Coach, is here for people probably like you, emerging leaders in some professional setting. We do videos on communication and leadership, and lately we've been slowly building a library of vocabulary or concept terms that you can use to think about your leadership and how you can take it to the next level. And today's concept is stakeholder. This is a really important concept that has been around for several decades at least, and it's become much more common recently. So we're going to talk about what exactly it is and then what you can do with it as an emerging leader. So we take this concept in contrast to the term stockholder. The term stockholder, briefly defined, is any individual who has a vested interest in the financial success of an organization. So briefly put, a stockholder is an investor. That's somebody who literally put up money and wants a return on their investment from that organization. So this could be someone who bought just simply stock in a company, or it can be a major owner who owns all or most of an organization. That's a stockholder. So the term stakeholder is obviously a play on this. So stakeholder has a broader definition. A stakeholder is anyone with an interest or concern in the organization's overall success. That's a little more general, and it's deliberately general because it's going to include many more types of people. So let's make this a bit more concrete. I'll give you a list of the types of typical stakeholder groups that you might expect to be interacting with an organization in some way. So the first group is still the investors. You're still going to have the people who actually own a piece of that money, the stockholders and the owners. The second group are what we might call the members of an organization. This includes the top executives, like all the top leaders, then all the managers in the middle, and certainly the frontline employees. Those are all members of one type or another of an organization. They depend upon that organization for their paycheck. Outside of that, you have external members or external groups that connect and count on the organization as well. For example, you have vendors, suppliers, and customers. They are doing, in some cases, daily business with your organization, and so they matter quite a bit as well. Then you have the community, and this could be the host community where your organization lives, so to speak, and it can also be the larger industry that your organization is part of the accreditation organizations that are above your organization. They might be a stakeholder if you have one of those types of agencies above you, and certainly the media, and that media could be local or it could be national or even international, depending upon the industry that you are in. And one level beyond that is the government, and this can be local, state, and national. So those are a partial list really of the types of stakeholders that we are talking about. Now I want to give you a definition of stakeholder theory provided by R. Edward Freeman. Edward Freeman, he has a video on this on YouTube, and I'll put the link to that in the description below the video. I encourage you to look at that. He's a 50-minute video all about stakeholder theory. He's done a lot of thinking and a lot of writing and talking about this, so he really is an expert. But here is my paraphrase of stakeholder theory based upon Freeman's. Stakeholder theory explains that to be successful, an organization has to provide value to all stakeholders, all of the relevant individuals and groups who help determine the success or failure of an organization. That's really my paraphrase of Freeman's definition. I encourage you to look at the original video as soon as you get the chance. So having defined this and talked a little bit about what it is, let's talk about why it should matter to you as an emerging leader. And I'd like to talk about 3 ways that you can apply stakeholder concept and the stakeholder theory to your job. So the first reason is that you have to think beyond just the financial investors. You have to reframe the way you think about leading. A lot of my friends and associates, when you ask them what their real job is, bottom line, they will often talk about money. They'll say, my job is to make my boss money. And it sounds kind of edgy, and it sounds kind of like, wow, you really know what you're doing. But it's a very narrow and even superficial way to think about the role that the organization is playing in the larger community. So when you adopt stakeholder theory, you start to think about all of the other potential stakeholders that you could be working with, exchanging value with, and really thinking about your organization much more as a system instead of just a bottom line organization that's focused purely on efficiency. You have lots of different interest groups that you could be working with to make the organization successful. And by the way, if you neglect these stakeholders, it can really cost your organization severely. So if you take too much of a bottom line approach, for example, you might have some friction with a supplier or a vendor who is not cooperating with you in a way that's completely favorable to you. Like years ago, I worked in the restaurant business when I was in college part-time, and I worked for a huge restaurant bar, and they could not get along with one of their major suppliers, which happened to be Anheuser-Busch. So as a result, they stopped paying the bill to Anheuser-Busch, and then we could not get Budweiser on the bar or in the restaurants anymore. Now, let's say you're a server. You try to explain to your customers why you don't have Budweiser to sell them. And it was this kind of restaurant where you really would expect that. So they had this difficult relationship with a major stakeholder. Like if you're in the restaurant bar business and you can't get along with Anheuser-Busch, then you've got a serious problem. They were very bottom line managers and they were good at what they did in a way, but they had a very limited view of their role as a leader. They needed to think more about stakeholders, not just about stockholders and the bottom line. The second way we can apply this is that you as a leader have to play a bigger game. In other words, you can't just think about the pyramid and the hierarchy and who's above you and who's right below you. You have to start thinking about stakeholders and learning how to do things like collaborate, build positive relationships with them, and have a positive influence on your stakeholder relationships, because you can't simply tell them what to do. There's a back and forth, a mutual exchange of value, and that requires higher level leadership skills, not just managerial skills. And the third way that you can put this into practice is really step one, is to do a stakeholder analysis. That's a great place to begin looking at who your stakeholders are. So you literally just get out a pencil and paper and start making a list of all the potential stakeholders that interact with your organization on a regular basis. And then you start to figure out what do they need from you as an organization, from you as a leader, and how can you begin to exchange that value in a mutually beneficial way. The other part of this is when you're doing a stakeholder analysis, you very quickly realize that there are primary stakeholders and secondary stakeholders. A primary stakeholder are typically the people that count on the organization financially for a paycheck, but it could include other groups. And those are the kinds of stakeholders that have to be involved in discussions from beginning to end. If you're going to make a big decision or launch a big project, your primary stakeholders have to be in the loop the entire time. Otherwise, you can really get jammed up if you move too far ahead without getting people involved, because they can put a halt to an important project later if they didn't understand it from the beginning. And then you'll have your secondary stakeholders. The secondary stakeholders certainly need to be involved, but you might involve them when it makes the most sense for that particular project. Now, I can't really give you a concrete list of primary and secondary stakeholders for your organization because it's going to be different every time. If you work for the FBI, for example, you're going to have an entirely different list of primary and secondary stakeholders than if you work for the Boston Celtics, the basketball team. It's a different industry, different players, a whole different set of priorities. Nevertheless, these are really important concepts and ways that you can put stakeholders and stakeholder theory into practice. And so, question of the day for you: what value do you see in thinking about stakeholders over stockholders? How does this open up your thinking? I would like to hear your response to that question in the comment section below this video, and I look forward to reading that comment. I read it almost every single comment and respond to almost every single one. So I look forward to that. So thanks, God bless, and I will see you in the next video. Hey there, before we go, I want to...
Yes, we can have solid understanding of stakeholder through the video. Let's see. Context of organization. This is combination of internal and external issues that can have an effect on an organization's approach to developing and achieving its objectives. So take a look at this part for a while. The next is customer. We know customer. This terminology, person or organization that could or does receive a product or a service that is intended for or required by this person or organization. For example, consumer, client, end user, retailer, receiver of product or service from an internal process, beneficiary, and purchaser. So let's see more about customer.
What is a customer and customer needs and wants? In marketing, we tend to use the word customer and consumer almost interchangeably. However, our customer and the consumer are not, strictly speaking, the same. A customer is a person or company who purchases goods and services. A customer becomes a consumer when he or she uses the goods or services, that's to say, where there is some consumption. Customers can be categorized as B2C, which stands for business to customer, for example, where you buy sweets from a shop. Business to business, or B2B, where the shopkeeper uses the services of an accountant to write his tax return. C2B, which is customer to business, for example, where an individual sells his gold watch to a jewelry store. And C2C, or customer to customer, where customers sell goods to each other. A great example for C2C is eBay, where consumers sell goods to other consumers. Therefore, we can define a consumer as an individual who buys and uses a product or service. The consumer could be the customer that goes into the shop to buy the sweets. However, the final consumer may not always be the customer. For example, a parent goes into the sweet shop and buys some sweets. He or she does not eat them, and so they are not the consumer. The child would eat the sweets and be the consumer, although he or she did not buy the sweets, and so they are not the initial customer. The reason that we would need to know the difference between a consumer and a customer is that we'll want to design communications and understand the consumer behaviour of a person that instigates and influences a buying decision, as well as the final consumer. For example, the child will influence the mother's decision on which sweets to buy. However, it can be more subtle. For example, a wife might influence the clothing choices of her husband, or a child might influence the family's choice of a holiday destination. Customer needs and wants. Obviously, the term customer and consumer are often interchanged. So with CIM's definition of marketing, we'll aim to anticipate the needs and wants of consumers and or customers. Needs and wants may differ. So let's return to our mother and her child, since a mother may wish to feed her child nutritious food at mealtimes, hence the example. The child may wish to eat sugary and less healthy food. The mother is the customer and she purchases based upon her need, whereas the child is the final consumer and he or she may focus on what they want. So, needs and wants may differ between customers and consumers. A marketing-oriented approach. As we discussed in earlier sections, a marketing orientation underpins our focus on the customer or consumer and their needs and wants. Our marketing orientation occurs as a result of all of the people from within our business, from the managing director to the receptionist, making the satisfaction of customer needs and wants their whole reason for being. Now let's take a look at how we find information that will shed light on what our customers and consumers need and want. The benefits of a marketing orientation centre on the fact that customers can be grouped into segments, and segments can deliver profits to the organisation. Customers also need information about products and services and how to use them, and it's these topics that we'll consider in the next videos.
Yes, and then provider, supplier. We knew them. External provider, external supplier. Metrological function, example, producer, distributor, retailer, or vendor of a product or a service. Functional unit with administrative and technical responsibility for defining and implementing the measurement management system. And next, related to activity improvement. Activity can be recurring or singular. And continual improvement, recurring activity to enhance performance. Actually, continual improvement is something like ladder, staying and improvement and staying, improvement, like that. Not go straight like that. We call it continuous improvement this case, but like a ladder is continual improvement. In ISO, terminology of improvement is continual improvement. We have improvement and documentation and all organization and all function be stable, and then improvement again, stable, improvement, stable, like this way. Management, coordinated activities to direct and control an organization. Quality management, we studied already, and quality planning. Quality planning is a part of quality management. Please remind about quality management from the first class. Quality management consists of 4 elements. The first one is quality planning. Second one is quality assurance. Third one, quality control. The fourth one, quality improvement. So it's all related. And let's check about process. In the process, set up interrelated or interacting activities that use inputs to deliver an intended result. Intended result, not by chance. That is process. Let's take a look this part for a while. Okay, number 3, quality management system realization. Process of establishing, documenting, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving a quality management system. That is quality management system realization. Procedure specify the way to carry out an activity or a process. This is specify the way to carry out process also. Then outsource. We heard a lot about outsourcing. Yes, that's correct. Make an arrangement where an external organization performs part of an organization's function or process. So we heard a lot about BPO, business process outsourcing. That is also the same meaning. This. And then design and development. Set up processes that transform requirements for an object into more detailed requirements for that object. Now let's see. The requirements forming input to design and development are often the result of research and can be expressed in a broader, more general sense than the requirements forming the output of design and development. And let's see next about the system. We heard a lot about the system. What is it? Set of interrelated or interacting elements. Set of interrelated or interacting elements. That is system. Infrastructure, system of facilities, equipment, and services needed for the operation of an organization. That is infrastructure. Work environment, set of conditions under which work is performed. So normally this one, moisture, temperature, light, like that. Yeah, management system, set of interrelated or interacting elements of an organization to establish policies and objectives and processes to achieve those objectives. That is management system. The quality management system, yes, we know part of management system with regard to quality. Metrological confirmation, set of operations required to ensure that measuring equipment conforms to the requirements for its intended use. So, metrological confirmation generally include calibration or verification, any necessary adjustment or repair, and subsequent recalibration, comparison with the metrological requirements for the intended use of the equipment, as well as any required sealings and labeling. Measurement management system, set up interrelated or interacting elements necessary to achieve metrological confirmation and control of measurement process. And policy, we knew it, intentions and direction of an organization as formally expressed by its top management. Normally, the policy is coming from creator or the owner. And let's see quality policy. What is it?
Contents of Quality Policy. According to ISO 9000 Quality Management System (QMS), formulating a quality policy in the organization, which is striving for ISO 9000 quality certification, is a mandatory requirement. On the one hand, the quality policy (QP) depicts any organization's commitment to quality. On the other, it's a broad statement indicating the top management's intention or commitment towards striving for quality pertaining to organization's products and services. In a well-formulated QP simply indicates that the organization's commitment to comply with quality standards as set out and its readiness to continually improve and revise such standards for the effectiveness of the QMS. Consistently review the suitability of the QMS and its continued revision to suit the purpose of the organization that handles. Clear formulation and periodical review of quality objectives and targets. Communicating and creating awareness of the quality objectives and quality initiatives within the organization. Additionally, QP precisely demonstrates the top management's commitment to quality management in the organization, Hence, the QP will act as a base for the organization's QM. It should be all-inclusive, succinct, and easy to comprehend. The QP of an organization should cover the following: the mission, vision, core values, and beliefs of the organization, precise requirements and ways of communication with all interested stakeholders involved in the organization or business, statement regarding commitment to continual improvement, organization's managerial principles, objectives, and targets, effective coordination and integration of quality objectives and goals with other organizational policies, statement regarding compliance with all the applicable laws and regulation and other standards to which the organization has to comply with, compatible with the local conditions. In addition, many modern organizations today are integrate environmental and health policies with a quality policy. It helps them to avoid too many policy statements, ambiguity among policies, that could confuse the parties involved in QMS initiatives. According to the ISO 9000 standard, QP should communicate clearly how the organization will operate and what are its goals and objectives, or what it's going to achieve in the short and long term. Also, it states who is responsible for quality initiatives under ISO 9000. All in all, QP can be considered as an essential tool or means available for the management for the realization of quality goals and objectives for the product and services of the organization. Similarly, the effectiveness of the QP is gauged from the performance of the QMS that is in place. Hence, the QP holds the organization or the top management accountable for achieving the quality objectives and goals or expectations as stated in the policy and QMS. It is also noted that the external QMS auditors will find factual evidence that the QP policy is well communicated and well understood by all employees of the organization. Generally, the auditors will request the employees to state the QP of the organization. They would find out whether the employees are well aware or knowledgeable about the contents stated in the QP. Thus, it implies not only every employee should demonstrate the knowledge of the contents of QP, but also how QP or contents is applied to day-to-day activities or tasks. Hence, ISO 9000 accreditation process mandates its employee training, awareness of the QP. Furthermore, it is important to note that ISO 9000 clearly indicates the essential requirements for an effective QP. Any organization, including the top management, shall ensure that the QP is suitable for the intended purpose of the organization, demonstrate its commitment towards compliance with quality requirements and continual improvement of the effectiveness of the QMS, provides an agenda for forming and reviewing quality objectives, is clearly communicated and understood by all employees in the organization, is reviewed and revised periodically for suitability. The success or effectiveness of QP and its associated QMS depends immensely on the management's commitment and its willingness to review and monitor the effectiveness of the QP. Thus, the organization's top management should continually monitor the effectiveness of quality policy. At the same time, it is essential to check whether the quality objectives are congruent with the contents of the QP. If it's not, either the objectives or the QP contents must be amended. The QP is a living document which has to be revised regularly by the top management of any organization in order to check the validity of QP with the prevailing organizational conditions. In summing up, well-communicated and formulated quality policy is an essential tool for successful implementation of QMS in an organization.
Okay, and there are related terminology about vision, mission, strategy. Yes, let's see. Vision, aspiration of what an organization would like to become as expressed by the management. Mission, organization's purpose for existing as expressed by top management. Strategy, plan to achieve a long-term or overall objective. It's all related. Let's see more details.
Why work with mission, vision, values, strategies, and goals? Ask yourself the question, if you don't know where you're going, why are you going at all? If you can't answer the question about where you're going, then your employees most probably can't either. This means that they will do what they believe is the best for the company, and most probably it will not be the same focus for all. The most profitable way to go is where the customers are willing to pay and come back and buy more in the future. Find out who your customers are, what they want and how they want it. Make sure that you know what they want right now and in the future. No matter on which level you are as a manager and leader, you have to work with these high-level issues. If you are the CEO of the company, you have to set the overall direction. Whether you write the mission, vision, values, strategies and goals yourself, you involve people or you get external help, it is still your job to be the first one to commit and the first one to tell the story. The job of a middle manager is to translate the story to the next level so that the next level can understand and get an opportunity to commit to the story and work accordingly. Many leaders and managers believe that an email with written directions should be enough to get people going. This is far from enough. People want to know if what they do matters and how. What is the compelling story that I am a part of? What are people saying about where I work? What are they supposed to say? And what can I do to help them say that? When managers involve their direct reports, they massage the overall direction to fit the job that people have to do. The massaging includes changing behavior, habits and ways of working to support the company's overall direction. A mission, a vision, and supporting values can help people get emotionally engaged. Strategies and goals can help people move in the right direction. Picture a soccer game where nobody knows why they're there, what is the most important to do and what not to do. What can the spectators expect the players to do? Have fun, play with a ball for each team, fight with fists or what? What are the spectators willing to pay for? Every business is made to make money by fulfilling customers' dreams or solve customers' problems, and only the customers know what they're willing to pay for. What is a great customer experience in your company? Why do people pay to watch a game of soccer, golf or tennis? Why do people want to pay for what your company can offer? How can they come to want to pay even more? Back to our soccer team. If the players do not know that to be successful, the number of goals scored from their team has to be higher than the number of goals scored from the other team, where is their focus then? People need a punchline that says everything about how to create great customer experiences, like scoring more goals. That punchline is the mission. What is your company's mission? What if they do not know that a newly started local team are not expected to win Champions League within the first year? What will they then be proud of when they are not even qualifying for Champions League? They need something achievable to relate to instead. And what is that? People need a statement that describes a future situation, something they will be proud of achieving together as a company. Statements like number one in sales, world-class service, or the best products can be great statements if they are made more concrete. All three statements triggers the question, compared to what? For the local soccer club, a vision statement can be to be a strong regional team, appreciated for its creative players, delivering outstanding seaworthy games. This statement says something about where the club wants to go. However, it does not say anything about how to get there. What is your company's vision? Imagine now that each of the soccer players reads the vision statement and elaborates on it, each in their own way. Some of the different perceptions of the vision statement can be: I know now that I have to physically injure as many of the other players as I can manage in each game. This means that we are going to be team players helping each other to score. The best players should at all times receive the ball and move forward. We have to take the time to show all our tricks when dribbling slowly towards the goal. People need simple values to guide them achieving the vision in the right way. Values for the soccer club can be memorable experiences. We understand what the supporters and visitors want. We are present whenever we meet a customer or a potential sponsor. We act as professionals inside and outside the stadium. We want long-lasting relationships with our stakeholders. We know that everything we do leaves a footprint. All for one and one for all. We support each other to be unique. We feel responsible for each other's improvements. We learn from and teach one another. We embrace each other's differences and try to adjust as much as possible. We accept that changes in the team setting is a natural part of our development. Adjust expenses. We acknowledge the value of being financially independent. We know when to spend and when to save. We focus our expenses according to our strategy. We continuously ask ourselves why and how this expense is important to reach our mission, vision, and strategy. What are your company's values? Mission, vision, and values give some overall guidelines for where a company is heading and what kind of difference they want to make in the society. If there is a good match between people and company, people are hopefully emotionally engaged in the company. However, the employees don't necessarily know what this concretely means and what they should do. Next step is a clear strategy and goals to work according to, and here's one of the manager's pitfalls. The further away the people who make the strategies are from fully understanding and committing to the mission, vision, and values, the more risk there is that a connection is not there. Imagine that the soccer club's owner writes a mission, vision, and values, sends them out to the manager on an email, and asks him or her to take charge in writing and implementing a strategy. The manager forwards the email and adds a few directions to the head coach and asks him or her to write a strategy and to implement it in the different soccer teams. The risk is very high that the manager has not fully understood the mission, vision, and values, and therefore adds activities that are not directly linked to what the club is all about. The same goes for the next touch point between manager and head coach. Words are just words, and we need to work with the words to fully understand them. The more touch points a company has, the more communication is needed to ensure that the goals linked to each individual will eventually sum up to fulfill the company's mission. A strategy is often with more in-depth information about what the expectations are. The first strategy is at company level, and if the company consists of different divisions working with the different things in the value chain, it may be a good idea to make a strategy at division level too. A strategy tells people something about where the division or the company wants to be at a certain time, why this is important and what the benefits are, what kind of high-level achievements are expected to be delivered, who is responsible for what, and who is expected to deliver what. A strategy document informing about the strategy is mostly a Word document and can consist of these headlines. Purpose of the document. Write the answers to these questions. Why is this document written? What are the headlines in this document, and for whom is this document written? Executive summary. State the main messages of the document as bullets. This is a way to highlight what you at least want people to understand. Some people don't read more than this. Background. Explain why this strategy and change is important. For instance, new market conditions, demands from customers or stakeholders, or new demands for cost efficiency. Business objectives. Explain what the to-be situation will be. How will the organization look like? What new will happen to the company's value chains? What remains of processes, products, and people? What new learning is needed? How will the company's infrastructure look like in the future? How does new and old fit together? What do the company and people have to invest in this strategic change? Benefits. Explain what the benefits are for the company. It could be more profit, lower cost, happier and healthier people, faster deliveries to the customer, more innovation together with the customers, and more. Strategy chart. Show the overall expectations and how they relate to the vision. A chart can be most helpful for everyone to discover which part of the strategy they can add value to. Here's an example from the football club. Involve people to co-create their new working life. Once the strategy is clear, with clear overall goals, people are ready to be involved in creating their new working life. This also means being involved in setting SMART goals for what they in particular have to do to fulfill the part of the strategy that they can influence. A strategy covers many teams and not everyone is involved in everything. Goals. State the concrete goals that has to be achieved and when. The goals has to be SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-bound. For instance, rules and regulations for how to control costs are to be written in Q1. Activities. State what activities will be started to fulfill the strategy, what needs to happen to reach the goals. Make a chart to visualize when what is going to happen, when it starts and when it is supposed to end. Be concrete so people know exactly what is going to happen. Responsibilities. State who is responsible for what and how they have committed themselves. For instance, the board is responsible for writing rules and regulations for how to control costs. The commitment could, for instance, be that they have cleared their calendar for a week to plan how to involve people in designing activities and what they will present at the end of that week. It could also be how these activities are reflected in their balanced scorecard and KPIs. Additional tools. There are a few more things that can be very beneficial to have in place to help the strategy come to reality. Storytelling, facilitation, goal documentation like balanced scorecard and key performance indicators, human resource activities like job descriptions, annual personal review, employee satisfaction index, personal development dialogue, combining storytelling and learning. Yearly wheel to lead and manage strategies. As you can see, strategy and people are closely interlinked in this wheel, and each of the bullets are activities to be done at least once a year. It can be very beneficial to spread the activities out so they are not to be done at the same time. Some of the activities are yearly events and some can be repeated during the year. A good suggestion is to call upper right corner for Q1, lower right corner for Q2, lower left corner Q3 and upper left corner Q4. But it all depends on what is most suitable for the company to do. It is of importance though that the whole company does it in the same way. This is to make it easier to plan and to prevent people from getting confused if they move from one unit to the other within the company. If the starting point is the customers, which would be the most obvious thing, then you start in lower left corner and the game plan can look like this. Customer Satisfaction Index Measurement. Start by understanding what the customers are willing to pay for. Ask them either in a structured way as a CSI is, or call some of your customers to help you to be innovative. Let the customers be the most important source for developing the company's strategy. Strategy, plan changes. Write a strategy based on the inspiration from the customer's input, other external stakeholders' input, internal analysis of IT, locations and other equipment, and the knowledge about people and competences. Plan the necessary changes for the future for how to increase profit, how to invest, and how to reduce costs. Adjust job descriptions. A new strategy most often brings changes, and sometimes it affects people's job descriptions too. It could be parts of the text that has to be changed, or all of it if the job no longer exists and there is a need for people to do something completely different. A strategy should last for a few years and with smaller adjustments every year. The same goes for job descriptions. They should not change often either. Job descriptions are most often a Word document describing what can be expected of a person in a particular job. Headlines can be salary level, accountabilities, success criteria, competences, educational qualifications. Employee Satisfaction Index Measurement. Strategies affects people. The way managers lead and manage strategies affects people too. If people are not satisfied with what they do, they are likely to be less productive. That is why it is very important to find out how satisfied people are and then do what is necessary to keep the satisfaction at a high level. ESIs can be more or less sophisticated. The important thing with an ESI is that everyone is asked, both employees and middle managers. that the answers are anonymous and the output a welcome source of inspiration for the manager to how things can be even better. The questions asked in the ESI can be about people's trust in the company, the top management's performance, the working environment, and the immediate manager's performance. There are many companies that can help form the questions and run the survey. If the company wants to do it themselves, then make sure to keep the anonymity. Every manager should have a survey on their own, where direct reports have answered how satisfied they are with the manager's competences and behavior. If the team is less than 5, you can't count on the anonymity anymore. If you do not have access to an ESI in your company, you can instead ask your employees questions directly to get to know what you can do even better. It will no longer be anonymous, so you need to be sure to create trust ahead. Ask questions like, what can I do to be an even better manager for you? If I should be even more competent as a manager, what should I then focus on? What is in your mind the most important for me to do? If you were me, how would you do that? What do you believe it would benefit the team and me? Besides what I can do as a manager, what other improvements would you like to see that can help you to do your job right? What more would improve your job satisfaction? What would improve your loyalty to the company? Strategy, storytelling. Storytelling is very important no matter if the strategy brings changes or not. The story has to be clear, easy to understand and appealing to all. Besides that, the story has to be told in an engaging way so that people understand why the strategy is important, what the changes are, how it will affect each individual, and how the behavior at work are supposed to be. Storytelling is a task that has to be done from one manager to the other, cascading the engaging story from top management and all the way to the employees. The story has to be consistent all the way, and if one manager does not see why, what and how clearly, that manager has to return to his or her own manager to get help to engage in the story. If a manager is not mentally engaged in the story, there is not much chance that his or her direct reports will. Imagine if that happened high up in the hierarchy and everyone below that level would focus elsewhere than on the strategy. Balanced scorecard. A balanced scorecard can help people engage and focus on the right activities that will lead to fulfillment of the company's strategy. It is a contract, often a one-page Word document between manager and employee for what has to be delivered during a year. The goals in the document are often called key performance indicators. The manager can follow up during the year, for instance in monthly meetings, to help the employee to stay focused, celebrate successes, and deal with challenges. The balanced scorecard is often connected to a variable salary part, which is paid by the company once a year. The amount of money paid is agreed upon from the beginning of the year, and sometimes with a maximum that is equal to reaching 100% of all goals in the balanced scorecard. Strategy, involving people and setting personal goals. With your own balanced scorecard in hand, you can start involving people in co-creating their workplace. Your balanced scorecard is equal to what the team has to deliver, and that is your starting point for facilitating the team's involvement. If it makes sense to you and the team, you can make a balanced scorecard for each of the employees too, which you can follow up on during the year. Make sure that you facilitate the team's strategy work in a creative way to enable the team to think out of the box and come up with new, brilliant ideas for how to work smarter in the future. The outcome of this work should be concrete working methods, team goals and personal goals for each of the individuals, which you as a manager can follow up on through regular meetings with your employees. Be inspired on how to do that by entering the leadership path, Lead and Manage Performance. Variable salary part. Every team member should be very well aware of how much they will get paid if you have set clear and specific goals for each team member. You tend to create frustration and thus decrease productivity for a while if the goals have not been specific and clear, and if the team members are unsure how much they are going to get paid. Annual personal review. To ensure that the company's strategy will be reached and that you can lead the team to successfully do their part, you need to review the resources in the team. If the strategy means changes to people's expected behavior and competences, you need to assess the team. Who are able to embrace the changes right away, who need to raise their competences or focus on their behavior, and who are perceived to be constantly unhappy with the changes and need to face the fact that they will most probably be happier in another job. Changes to a company strategy do not mean that a particular employee is less worthy. It just means that the present job and the personal preferences and competences are no longer a good match. Actions are necessary from this point to set the right team. Combine strategy and learning. You know now what is expected of the team, and each individual has their own personal goals and team goals to relate to. At the same time, the team knows which working methods to maintain and which to renew. Now it is time to find out which skill sets are needed in the team and what each individual needs to learn to be able to perform. ESI Dialogue and ESI Action Plan. Once the Employee Satisfaction Index is out, you have inspiration enough to find out what you can personally do to support the team to be successful. You will know where your strengths are and what you need to improve. Take a dialogue with your team and let the strategy guide you to focus on the most important for the strategy to happen. Embrace any feedback you get as guidance for you to learn more about how to keep the energy and the productivity level high in the team. Make an action plan that you commit yourself to and where the team is willing to support you to become even better. Follow up on that action plan together with your team, for instance, every quarter. This way your team can help you assess your own improvements in your personal behavior. Personal development dialogue, including salary discussion. The fulfillment of the company's strategy is dependent on the performance of the employees. Performance is a mixture of many things. For instance, feeling and being competent, having easy access to development, liking what you do, liking the workplace, the workload and the relationships in it, level of ambitions and how easy it is to handle challenges. At least once a year you must dedicate time to fully understand the employee's individual drivers, where they see their future, and to assess the employee looking back at a longer period of time. If you meet the employees in monthly follow-up meetings, you seldom deepen the understanding as much as you can when dedicating 2 to 3 hours with the employee. The performance development dialogue can consist of these areas. Most important subjects for the dialogue: physical and mental working environment, relationship between employee, team and manager, assessment of the previous year compared to the success criteria in the job description, focus areas for the past and coming year, level of ambitions for the future. If you use a template, you can get the employee to plan ahead, and you can do the same. Start the conversation by asking the employee what is most important to focus on in today's conversation. This way you are sure that the time is spent on the most important for the employee. This conversation is the employee's conversation most of all. You can benefit from including a salary dialogue in the performance development dialogue. This way you can let the employee know what it takes to raise the salary level if the employee wishes to know about that. How does the employee need to change behavior, and/or what new competences or responsibilities does the employee have to focus on to get a higher salary? The more concrete you are in what the person has to do, the more focused the employee can be. You can at the same time communicate what the salary level will be for the coming year. Be inspired by what drives people by entering the leadership path, lead and manage people, and be inspired on what a person can develop by entering lead and manage development, competence assessment and training plan. With the work you have done up until now, you can assess the whole team's competence level and make a training plan. Make a chart that you discuss with your team. This chart links the corporate statement to what people need to learn. It can look like this. When you work with this chart as a process, you start from right to left to step by step create an understanding of how things are linked together. When you have created that understanding and people have found their learning goals and objectives, you can read the chart from left to right. An employee should read the chart as follows. When I manage to learn what I have promised myself, then I will increase my skills to be able to work in the right way. When I work in the right way, I have a good chance to reach my personal goals and thereby contribute to reaching the team's goals. When we do that, we contribute in the way we are supposed to the company's overall strategy and goals. If we continue that journey and at the same time comply to the company's values, it will bring the company closer to reaching the vision and mission. Find out if more team members have to learn the same and if other people in the company need the same training. The more you can train the team on the job, the more effective and cheaper it is. Find resources within the team or the company before you send people to external courses. Take responsibility yourself to train people with what you know and let people train each other. Your job is to ensure that people are competent enough to do their job as they're supposed to. This means training both skills and behavior. Be inspired on how to work with personal learning by entering the leadership path, lead and manage development. And be inspired on how to facilitate training by entering the leadership path, lead and manage teams. Midterm strategy follow-up. Take a few rounds during the year to see if you are on track. You have a balanced scorecard, an ESI action plan, and a training plan to follow up on. If things are not progressing as you expect them to, find out if you can handle it on your own, in the team, or if you need support from your immediate manager. In addition to the yearly reel, the manager should meet the employees on a regular basis in contract meetings, monthly meetings, co-hosted meetings, when sharing successes and getting new ideas, and in performance management meetings. Learn more about these meetings and how to structure your daily operations by entering the leadership path, lead and manage performance. Balanced scorecard. A balanced scorecard is a tool to help people stay focused on what is most important to do to meet the goals and objectives in the strategy. What you measure is more likely to get done than what you do not measure. Card means a paper where certain important measurements are written. Score means that the holder of the card is scored on how well the person has performed. Balanced means that the performance is measured on 4 dimensions: financials, customers, internal activities, and learning. To make any sense, the balanced scorecard is linked to the company's mission, vision, values, and strategy, including overall goals for the company. We have now moved from company level to personal level. People who are holders of a balanced scorecard are usually managers on a high level, who are directly responsible for certain goals and objectives to happen. Most often the card is linked to a variable salary part, meaning that if they achieve the goals and objectives in the balanced scorecard, they are rewarded with a bonus according to how well they have performed. All rules for how and how much a bonus will be paid should be clear in the balanced scorecard. That is why the goals and objectives in the card must be SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. The 4 dimensions in the balanced scorecard are financials, customers, internal business processes, learning and growth. Make sure that what you measure on is something that the employee can influence directly. Being an employee or a middle manager in a service department and being measured on the total sales figures makes no sense. A service department often has the opportunity to sell more, so let them be measured on that and not total sales. People tend to lose their energy if they are measured on something they cannot influence directly. Make fewer goals to help people stay focused. 1 to 3 goals. In each of the 4 dimensions are more than enough. These goals can be transferred to performance management meetings, which you can learn more about by entering the leadership path, lead and manage performance. Key performance indicators are there to ensure SMART goals and objectives. You can also call it goal or an objective. For each of the 4 dimensions in the balanced scorecard, there are specific key performance indicators. An example of a KPI can be total cost savings this year to be 5% compared to last year. Total increase of profit per customer this year to be 8% compared to last year. Total number of customer meetings per week to be 310. 4 yearly innovative interactions with customer groups to improve products. Implement new IT change to the CRM system to handle lead lists. Implement lean changes to save 10% time in daily operations. Level of ESI on immediate manager's performance to be 81%. Number of job-specific training activities for the team to be 2 per month, except for July, and number of follow-up meetings with employees to be 1 per month per employee.
Yes, that is really a useful video, especially you are in leader position. Please keep it in mind and try to adapt it in your actual work. They can change your job and also your staff and to the company as well. That's why I recommend this video to you. And let's check other step about the requirement, the object, entity, item, and about the quality. Let's see again about the quality. Degree to which a set of inherent characteristics of an object fulfills requirements. Yes, what we learned at first class, quality is customer satisfaction. Yes, customer how they define their requirement. Yes, in specification, a contract, and others. So quality is degree to which a set of inherent characteristics of an object fulfills requirement. Yes, simply customer satisfaction. And grade, category or rank given to different requirements for an object having the same functional use. Example, class of airline ticket and category of hotel in a hotel brochure. That is grade. The requirement, we heard a lot of requirement, that is need, expectation, that is stated, generally implicit or obligatory. Quality requirement, yes, the others follows. Non-conformity, non-fulfillment of a requirement. So this is wide meaning non-conformity, non-fulfillment of a requirement. That is all non-conformity. Conformity is opposite fulfillment of a requirement. Defect, non-conformity related to an intended or specified use. We call it defect. Normally non-conformity, after that root cause analysis, and after that corrective action and preventive action. We call it CAPA. Capability, ability of an object to realize an output that will fulfill the requirement for that output. And please remember this. Traceability, ability to trace the history, application, or location of one object. Normally in manufacturing company, they use lot number for their product traceability. How about in the office? We use it for document number or record number, like that, for traceability. When considering a product or a service, traceability can relate to the origin of materials and parts, the process history, the distribution and location of the product or service after delivery. So we can trace up all the history through this traceability. And next step, result. Objective. Result to be achieved. Objective. In QMS, quality objective. Let's see what is quality objective. Yes, sometimes quality objectives is similar like KPI, and this one should be monitored with interval like a monthly or weekly or quarterly or yearly. Then success, output, performance. Yeah, product, output of an organization that can be produced without any transaction taking place between the organization and the customer. The service, output of an organization with at least one activity necessarily performed between the organization and the customer. So ISO, including product, ISO certificate is for product and also service. Yes, we learn about risk, effect of uncertainty. Now, data, information, and document. Yes, data is facts of an object. From this data, we can get information. Information is meaningful data. If there is only data, we call it just data. But if there are something, we can have some insight, we call it information. Objective evidence, data supporting the existence or verity of something. We learn about document, information, and the medium on which it is contained. Documented information. Documented information can be in any format and media and from any source. So nowadays, even that is software, in ISO, we accept it as a documented information. Specification, document stating requirements. Example, quality manual, quality plan, technical drawing, procedure document, work instruction. These are specification. And record, I want to remind you, documents stating research achieved or providing evidence of activities performed. Generally, records need not be under revision control because that is record. Next, about customer. The feedback, opinion, comments, and expressions of interest in a product, a service, or a complaints handling process. Complaint. We can get a lot information from our customers' complaint. So this one is really important. We have to record all customer complaints. Characteristics, distinguish, feature. Quality characteristics, inherent characteristic of an object related to a requirement. Determination, For the measuring equipment, measuring instruments, software, measurement standard, reference materials, or auxiliary apparatus, or combination thereof necessary to realize a measurement process. And then relate to action. Preventive action, corrective action. I mentioned before when we study about nonconformity, this one followed. So let's see what is preventive action and corrective action, because this one is really useful in the field and we use a lot for this, and customer always requesting that. So what's this? And I want to explain concession. Because in product, there are gray area. Simply white area is conformity. Black area is non-conformity. There is sometimes gray area. So in that case, we can consider concession. Permission to use, or release a product or service that does not conform to specified requirement. About the audit, there are a lot of audit, combined, joint. Yes, combined audit is audit carried out at a single auditee by two or more auditing organizations. Yes, combined. Here is auditee, organization being audited. If third parties auditor auditing your company, auditee is your company. Then joint audit,
While the European audit reform recognizes joint audit as a fully viable mechanism, and it encourages it via longer rotation periods and a less onerous tendering process. We are conscious, however, that joint audit is often misunderstood or even misrepresented because of a lack of practical experience or even sometimes a hidden agenda. Joint audit has got 6 key features. First of all, it is an audit on an entity by 2 or even more auditors to produce a single audit report. 2, it has audit planning performed jointly and field work allocated between the 2 auditors. Thirdly, the work is performed by each auditor and subject to a cross-review by the other. And the auditor jointly reviews the critical issues affecting the entity. Then the auditors jointly report to the entity's management, the audit committee and the shareholders. And it's important to highlight finally that it is fully compliant with international auditing standards, in particular with ISA 600, and is permitted across Europe. It sounds complicated and expensive, but in fact, there is an inbuilt level of complexity in any large audit, because you have coordination required across countries with specialists in tax, valuation, audit. So joint audit is not materially more complicated than a normal audit and doesn't materially add to this degree of complexity. But more importantly, joint audit brings significant benefits for a very limited additional time which we estimate between 3 and 5% on the basis of real-life examples. And it often does not result in a corresponding increase in the audit fee. I would add that this additional time certainly is less extensive, far less extensive than the amount of time that will be required for tendering, rotation of firms, and the loss of knowledge and experience that comes with it. So in the end, I'm convinced that joint audit delivers good value for money. No, absolutely not. This is a caricature based upon lack of proper knowledge or even a hidden agenda. The system has been fine-tuned in France over the last 20 years, and it is applied very successfully and willingly by all major audit firms, including the Big Four. Some who oppose joint audit often cite the argument that in France such a system has only benefited one player. But to be honest, it is still one more than in any other European member state, and it would have been even more if other emerging players had not been taken over by the largest firms.
Okay, this is the end of terminology, and see you next class. We will study about the clauses. Thank you so much.